Hey everybody, this is Freemason Speaks. Today I am wanting to have a discussion with you guys on the second part of the series, The Road to Freedom on the Real Estate of Money. So today we're going to talk about the road to freedom. Why is it important? And we're going to walk through a few slides and I'm going to break down why is it important, the road to freedom in this next series. So let's begin. I hope you had a good evening and I hope or a good morning, a good evening, and also have a good night. But let's start and let's dive into it. Let's dive into the presentation. The Real Estate of Money, hosted by myself, hosted by me, Freemason Speaks, and let's go into it. The agenda for today is the road to freedom, ownership. Most people don't know that, hey, this country, this United States of ours, was founded off of landowners. Landowners, you needed land to be able to vote. If you did not have land, you could not vote in the United States. You needed to be land to be in part of Senate. You needed land to be a part of the House. You needed land, shoot, to even be president. You needed land. So uh, land has always been a key component to wealth generation in the United States. It has been a core factor in I think wealth generation in the whole entire world, and still is that core generation of wealth. The next line in the agenda is becoming the executioner. Becoming the executioner. Get your butt off the couch. It's time to make it happen. It's time for you to stop talking about generational wealth. It's time for you to stop talking about how you're going to get big. It's time for you to put things in place to make it happen. Become that executioner. And next, we'll be talking about uh, buying your first rental property and how to do a semi good job in analysis work. How do I do the analysis work needed uh, to to be able to maintain and buy a home? How do I do that analysis work? And we're going to be using a little bit of Zillow here. Uh, but let's get back to the slides. We're gonna use a little bit of Zillow to break down how do I properly look at the market and do some analysis work so that when I do become an executioner, when I decide that I need ownership, become an executioner, what do I execute on? This is part of the philosophy, part of the theory, and part of these slides today. So let's get started. Let me get myself up off of here and let's so you can see this screen a little bit better. So first part, road to freedom, ownership. Freedom's road, ownership. Many content many content makers out there will tell you not to buy a home, not to buy a house. Maybe some of them will say, hey, buy some investment properties, but don't buy yourself a house. Well, one thing about buying a house that people don't ever talk about, that road to freedom, buying a house instills discipline. The discipline that if you have in you, will prove to be a benefit to you in any endeavor of your life. Acquiring a house, making the payment on time, making rent on time, paying your bills on time. That is one of the fundamental keys to generational wealth. To be able to build your wealth up, to become rich, is the idea that you can save, you can stay focused long enough in 2 minutes to acquire, accumulate, and execute. That's what it takes. And a perfect start to that is to purchase your own home. Let's look at the first sentence. 63% of the net worth of 80% of Americans is primary are their primary home. 63% of all wealthy people, primary source of their wealth is their home. Can I say that? Primary source. I know that you're a special snowflake. I know that you're going to be the greatest rapper in the world, and that your music in its totality is going to sell in way into the future. You don't need to own anything. I'm telling you right now that that is a lie. 63% of all Americans who are in that wealth category own their own home. They own a house. They own a piece of land, a piece of property, a piece of America. And that allows them to leverage, that allows them to make moves, that allows them to take loans and use their land as collateral. A lot of people say debt is bad. Debt is not bad. Being debt free sounds great. However, when you go to a bank and you're debt free, you have nothing unless you acquired assets. Assets, debt free assets maybe, but assets nonetheless. You need assets in this world. If you want to have a voice, you need assets. Um, Harvard Harvard did a study that shows 65-year-olds who own their own house are worth 44 times more than those who rent. That means if you're still renting at 65, your counterpart who took the time, who brought their own home, is worth 44 times more than you. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that translate to? What that translates to is when I'm 65 and my maid or my nurse comes to the door and she says, "What do I want?" I say, "Filet mignon, lobster tails. I'm I'm not feeling too well. Could I get a piece of fish today?" While you, on the other hand, may be homeless, may be in a spot where dinner is just served at 5, and you cross your fingers and you hope that the jello is just right. Other than when I get old, or what most people do when they get old that own their own home, they're able to have that leverage when they're old enough to be put in an environment where they get to pick and choose and live their lives to the fullest. Next, the next line: buying your home is the first step to building wealth and creating a mindset of fiscal discipline that will carry you to the next level of your economic journey to freedom. What does that mean? Again, it's like I said before, your first home creates discipline. You need discipline in this life. Your mortgage comes first. You can't use your mortgage to go to the club. You can't use your mortgage for that new dress. You have to pay for your roof over your head. You can't uh it builds a sense of worth. I'm not going to lose my property. I'm not going to lose what I've worked so hard for. This is a mindset. This is a mindset that most Americans do not have nowadays. And there in the future, there are going to be a lot of things that's going to hurt us as Americans, or my generation, because they don't have that get up and go, and they never had that drive to actually save money and plan for a proper future for their old, for their able. It's nice to believe that you are strong and able, that you are healthy and wise now. It is fun to imagine that at 65 years old that I'm still going to be a titan of industry, that I'm still going to be able to work that job uh, as a delivery boy, or work that job doing construction. It's a fantasy. When you hit 60, your body's going to give out. You're not going to want to work no more. You're going to get tired. Your days are going to get shorter. Your sleeps are going to get shorter. I mean, if you haven't put yourself in a position where you're able to invest, where you're able to travel the world, where you're able to move around, you're going to be short. You're not going to get over that hump. And the best way, the safest way, the most reliable way for you to achieve that is to buy your home, to buy a house, to have your primary home, have it paid off, ready to go, ready to trade in for your Florida vacation home, ready to trade in for when you get ready to get old, ready to trade in if you don't have a pension and you just have a 401k, ready to trade in so you can go into that retirement home with that nurse down the way that's going to be watching you. So that's my stance on that. Let's go to the next slide, guys. What comes first? Becoming the executioner. What is the executioner? The executioner is you have to get your butt off that couch. You got to get your butt off that couch, and you're going to have to figure out, if I'm going to buy me a home, I need to start preparing myself, my credit. I'm going to have to start saving money. I'm going to have to get a realtor. I'm going to have to start looking at things, and I'm going to have to start viewing the world in a different image. I'm going to have to stop going to the club. I'm going to have to stop chasing women for just a little while, or men, and I'm going to have to start putting myself first. And I'm going to have to start being an adult. Oh my God. We done did it again. Let's go ahead to the next slide. What comes first? That executioner. Again, become a person that executes plan. Why create a plan if you're not going to act? Control your life. Failure to launch will cost you time and money. Let's talk about failure to launch. What is failure to launch? Failure to launch is people who have the mindset to think that when they get old, they're going to go live with their mother. That they're going to, I don't need to buy a house because my parents will be dead soon. And then I'm going to inherit their property. These are some of the mindsets that lead to failure to launch. Yes, it's nice that your parents have insurance. Yes, it's nice that they have their own home, but you have to know how to manage a home. If they pass and you inherit their home, how do you even maintain a home? You don't even know how to maintain a home. Most likely you're going to sell the home and go back and live in your apartment and just be rent free for a couple of days. That's no life to live. You have to be an executioner. Let it be the wrong or right. They take action. Whether it be wrong or right, they take action. You need to take action in your life. Take action and getting your dreams. Sometimes the best way to get to at your dreams is to build a foundation of financial stability. Financial stability, the stepping stone for a man to go off into his purpose and do his things. With financial stability, everything in life is at your fingertips. And loss and failure do not hit you as hard with that financial foundation in place. Let's go on to the next slide. What comes first? First things first. First things first. First thing you need to know is, what is your credit score? I have met with countless of people who don't even know their count, who are 40, who are in their 50s, who are in my age group, that do not know how credit works, do not know what their credit score is, don't understand cash flow, don't understand retirement accounts, have not saved a penny up for retirement. Matter of fact, don't even have emergency stash of money somewhere for emergencies. Oh my God. Your goal in becoming an executioner is first taking the steps into educating yourself and getting yourself in a financial mindset, becoming financial literate. And one of the first steps is finding out what your credit score is, finding out what your cash flow is. What is cash flow? Cash flow is what is left after you pay your bills. That's your cash flow. After you pay that mortgage, after you pay that car note, after you pay that light bill, after you buy food and gas, what is left? And that is your cash flow. And in some cases, people would say that is your spending power. That is your real spending power. Is that after bill, after gas, another word I ain't gonna say, and after other things, that is your spending power. And that is your also, that can be translated as your saving power. That's also what people who don't save call their club money, the club and the drink money for the week or the month. You're going to have to put that drink down, not go to that club, not take that woman out to dinner. You have to save that money. You have to direct that money. You have to use that money in a way so that you can move in a way to start building a foundation, that financial foundation. So when you turn 60, the only thing you want to know when you're 60 is where the food is at and how long is this flight. That's what you want to know when you're 60. How long is this flight and what food is on this plane? That's the only thing I want to know when I'm 60 as I'm traveling the world, as I'm scuba diving, as I would say Coach Adams would say, visiting that junior college. You need a financial foundation to establish that good clean life. Always keep in mind that the down payment of your home must consist of money that comes from your paycheck, retirement account, gifts from your parents, and most banks require the down payment to be traceable. All of this is the first step of buying a home. So the first step of buying a home is one, to determine whether or not your credit is good enough to buy a home. Most credit scores need to be within that 650. I think with VA, it has to be a 625. So I would say 625 to that over 700 threshold is what you need to first to even qualify to purchase the home. Your cash flow. Your cash flow is essential with your savings. And why is that important? Because with a house, you're going to have to come up with a down payment. Down payments for investment properties in the United States after the infamous Dodd-Frank was passed. It is law that if you buy an investment property, you're going to need a whopping 20%. And that 20% has to be consistent of money, paychecks, from money from your retirement account, from your paycheck, a gift, and again, the money, all the money will require it to be traceable. That means your bank will ask you for financial statements as far back as 3 to 5 months. Most banks only require 3 to 2 months, but I've heard cases where some people will require 5. And I've heard other cases where they might require even longer. So, depending on your bank, it's a lot of factors that go into buying a house. Next step, buying your first rental property, becoming an analyst of the market. What do I mean by becoming an analyst for the market? Picking out a good property, figuring out what you need to do to make things happen. Finding a place, understanding how to read certain aspects of the real estate game. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a simple example, and break down a simple analysis of a rental property in, let's say, Baltimore City. We're going to go to Baltimore. We're going to pull up a house, and we're going to go into that house, and we're going to take a quick peek at it. We're going to take a quick peek at the house, and we're going to determine whether or not, hey, is this house good enough for me to rent out? Is it worth the investment? Is it something that would make a great investment property? And with that knowledge, I'm going to give you, you're going to be able to do like a simple analysis job on whether or not the house is suitable for an investment property. If it's good to go, is it something that you can do? And I'm going to try to show you a few houses, but I'm going to show you a house that's already been rehabbed first, and then we'll go into other aspects of evaluation. But first, we're just going to talk about um, we're going to talk about houses and how to look at the data. How to look at data. Let's go to the next slide. So determining the market you are in. So first, you have to determine before you buy anything, before you become an executioner, you have to know your credit score, start saving money. But then also you got to know, depending on the place you live, you have to be able to determine what type of market you are in. There's three different types of markets that we are in right now. And even though we're in a recession, there are still great deals out there for you to get. There are still great opportunities, great investments that you can use, that you can leverage to get where you need. First market, or the first determination of a market, is a buyer's market. What is the buyer's market? A buyer's market is when the market is, you can say the market is slow. This is the best possible when buying rental properties, that you plan on holding until and making a profit off for the long term. So a buyer's market determined. So let me describe a buyer's market for example. A buyer's market is a market that's not saturated, where there is a plethora of houses on the market. So a buyer's market is a market where when you go to the seller and you tell them, hey, um, I know you want $100,000 for this property, but I got 90,000. I want to buy it, but I'm only going to buy it for 90,000. And the buyer will be like, you know, it's so much inventory out there that they don't want to lose the deal, because there's so many opportunities and so much good property out there that they're willing to negotiate, and they're willing to take the lesser amount of money so that they can get the house sold. So that is your buyer's market. When you, as the buyer, have all the leverage, that is the perfect time to buy a investment property, because you can get the property at the price you want that fits your pockets, as well as get the property in the location you want, get it for what you want, and then turn around and rent it for what you want. A seller's market. Seller's market. I hate a seller's market now. A seller's market is a market in which the seller has all the leverage. As you know, the market in general has been a seller's market. As you heard from different places, that there's the inventory is less, that there is not a huge inventory of houses, and sellers are able to convince people to do bidding wars on the property. That means, hey, A seller can sell the house at 150 and you have no negotiating power because there's hundreds and hundreds of people looking at that seller's property. For example, there were houses being sold over their value in this market earlier this year. As it being a seller's market, what was happening was people would sell their house and then there will be a bidding war, and what was put on the market at 150 sold at 200 or $300,000. And that, my friend, is a seller's market. Not the greatest atmosphere for buying properties to rent. It is good still to buy properties to rehab. So there is still a niche in the market. And what is a property to rehab? Is a property that may have had a fire, that may be outdated completely. It may be a house that maybe a crackhead had broke into and stole all the plumbing out of it. And the house is deemed either condemned or not livable. Now, the market has always been steadfast in the same when it comes to those properties. Those properties you can get at auction. Those properties can go up from 50 to 60. Shoot, in DC, District of Columbia, a burnt out property that's just a shell could run almost $1 million. However, if you rehab, if you invest, if you put the work in, if you become an executioner, you can flip that, get that house rehab, and recoup the rewards of multi-millions of dollars off a property like that if you know what you're doing and you have the conviction to do it. The next market is your transactional market. I believe the market truly was not a seller's market, but I believe that we were really in a transactional market. That depending on the location, it was sellers or buyers market. It was a buyers or sellers market depending on the location. Such as Baltimore. Baltimore prices shot through the roof. Then suddenly the prices reset themselves as the economy went up because the Baltimore housing was not prime location. So that's a transactional market where the properties in the suburbs are sellers markets where there's bidding wars, while in the city there's deals to be made. All right. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. The next slide is, how do I determine whether or not a property is good to become a rental? It's a simple formula. This is a simple formula. This is not rocket science. This is cost of your mortgage minus the average rent per area is equal to 15% or greater. If the home you're about to buy lines up in this, if the rental property you buy, if that formula, if that number lines up with this formula, guaranteed you're going to make good profit. You're going to make this will be a good rental property. The next is migrating your risks. What does that mean? It means, hey, these are the things you need to look for to better make a judgment on how to buy a rental property. Mitigating your risk. Again, mitigating your risk. I'm so sorry about that, guys. Is how do I supplement the risk that I'm having so that I can profit the most? How can I? Let's mitigate the risk. Always buy a 3-bedroom house and ability always buy a 3-bedroom house. The ability to resell is higher if you get jammed. What does that mean? It means that 3-bedroom homes sell faster than 2 bedrooms or 1-bedroom homes. 3-bedroom is the standard across the board in the United States. So if you are antsy about getting a rental property, you just got all of these downswings. You're worried about you getting stuck. You're worried about maybe the finance is not going to be. Maybe I'm going to get a bad tenant. All kinds of things. Remember this. If you stick with a 3-bedroom, the likelihood of you being able to get out of that house and out of that situation or sell that property is going to exponentially, it's going to go up, um, is going to increase and double. The likelihood is going to be very good if you have a 3-bedroom home. Always keep insurance on your property. This is one of the big things. If there's a fire, if there's flood damage, don't let it be a crushing blow to your dreams. It could be a windfall. If you get a fire, most homes are, on average, are insured double what they are worth for rebuilding from ground up. So if you have a home for 150, that average insurance policy for that 150 home is going to be for 250. You're going to get a windfall. But to order to get that windfall, you're going to have to pay the man. You're going to have to pay that $300 to $400 a year for insurance. And that's going to protect you from a couple of things. That's going to protect you against fire and water damage. Now, tenants are unpredictable, but if they burn your spot down, just remember, as long as you got that insurance on your house, you're going to get paid, or you're going to get that house rebuilt. You're going to get a brand new house rebuilt from scratch, which once it's rebuilt from scratch will be worth probably twice as much as you brought the, maybe 10 times as worth as much more. Never buy a home that rent cannot pay 100% of the mortgage. Again, this is about analysis work. You have to do analysis. You gotta be a judge. You can't be in an area with a $2,000 a month mortgage and the average rent in that area is $500. You will never be able to find a person who will be able to rent your home for the amount that you're paying. No one will see the value. So you have to do the research and got to make sure that when you do sign, if you do decide to go a mortgage route because you don't have cash, you need to know that, hey, this, whatever this mortgage comes out to, that this mortgage will be able to be paid for by my tenant when I rent it out. And the goal is, again, that formula at the top, make sure that that leads you to 15% or greater profit or capital gains for your house. If it's feasible, keep your rental property mortgage the same as a car payment. That is one of the key notes that I'm going to give you. Keep it the same size as a mortgage payment. Don't buy that 6, 7, 8 bedroom mini mansion as a rental property. Don't do it. And don't buy that 6 or 7 bedroom monstrosity thinking that you're going to rent it out to a captain on a base or somebody or someone like that. Keep your rental properties small. Keep them in affordable ranges. Put the extra money down. Make the extra sacrifice. Tap into that retirement plan if you're going to use it to get your rental property, and use that money to make sure that payment is low. And the last tip, always get your home inspected if possible to learn what is going on with knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Always get a home inspection. Even when the house is sold as is, get a home inspection. There are a lot of things I can tell you, but always get the home inspection. The home inspection can be used as many things. It also can be used as a tool for you to do the fixes in the house, to get the houses ready for tenants and other things. You always want to make sure whatever you buy is structurally sound. All right, let's go to the next slide. Mitigating your risk. Mitigating your risk. Buying your first rental property. Spend money necessary to vet your tenants. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a situation where fellow landlords feel the need not to spend that money. A decent federal background, well, not a federal, but a decent criminal background and credit pool. There are multiple companies out there for $50, for $25 that will pull a person's credit and criminal record. Do not be cheap. Do not get in a situation where it's going to be a disaster for you just because you failed to spend $50 or $25. That $25, if you put a bad tenant in your property, could cost you thousands or tens of thousands of dollars or in the long run. So the first thing to mitigate risk is to do the upfront work. Vet your tenants. Vet your tenants. Let's move on. People with bachelor's degree tend to pay their rent on time. That is a trade secret. You may disagree, you may agree, but if you're not going to go a Section 8 or anything like that, or a blue collar worker, make sure put that on the application. Do you possess higher levels of education? You can stick that on a renter's application. And remember, if you're not in any type of programs or people renting directly from you, people with bachelor's degree, the study is out. It's been proven that 9 times out of 10 they will be paying their mortgage on time because they're educated and financial savvy enough to know that if they don't pay their rent on time, that will be a mark against their credit, and they're not trying to get bad credit because they're trying to be financially responsible. Next is Section 8 is not a bad way to get tenants. Nowadays, Section 8, the government will pay you, will not only guarantee your rent, but in most cases will pay you double what the market rate is for rent in most cases. So keep that in mind, that even though they might not have a bachelor's degree, but they're Section 8, that there is value within that program. I know everybody and their mother has the story about the tenant tearing up their house and leaving them with water damage everywhere. I would say that story is more fantasy than fact. That Section 8 tenants, and there's other programs now that have different, but my experience with the Section 8 program has been a wonderful experience. Because if they tear up your house, they lose their Section 8. Oh my God. In most cities, if your Section 8 tenant tears up your house and you report them, they will lose their voucher. They will lose their ability to live free somewhere else. The most you need to do is, if you are evicting a Section 8 tenant, you want to make sure that you go behind that tenant and lock down the property. On exit of that property, I can guarantee you they will not tear up your property. However, if it was a bad eviction, there is a possibility that months down the road, someone could try to sneak into the house. So make sure you do the proper things in order. Make sure you do a proper turn down. Change the locks. When you evicting a tenant, and this goes for any tenant, when you're evicting any tenant, do a changeover. Change out those locks. Lock those windows. Do a turnover on the property. Secure the property after the tenant leaves so you can protect yourself. That if someone does break in, that is a crime. And then you can, and if you go the extra measure of having an alarm system and cameras involved, you can catch that person committing that crime and hold them responsible. Another thing I'm going to tell you about Section 8, and this is more or less, do not assume you must walk a Section 8 tenant through the property. You have to understand these people who use Section 8, they are not upper echelon people, to be honest. These are poor. They're classified as poor people. And if you have provided them things like dishwashers, you done made sure that they had top of the line stuff or top of the line equipment in the house. Maybe you had it in the house because you used to live in it. Maybe you have it in the house because you just want to make sure that it'd be presentable enough so you can draw people in to rent it. You need to protect your assets. Do not assume if you're going Section 8 that they know how to work everything. Do a walkthrough. Regardless of how they feel, do a walkthrough. Show them how to use the dishwasher. Show them how to use the dryer. Take time out your day to secure your tenant, give them the knowledge, and also do the walkthrough and tell them what standard of living and what standard of environment that you uh, want them to uphold if you choose to let them be a renter. Again, always explain how to turn off water. I remember a situation about 5 years ago. A tenant called me up screaming and hollering. He said, Freemason speaks. She The house is flooding. I said, how is the house flooding? She said, the toilet is overflowing. I said, turn off the toilet. Turn off the toilet. She said, I don't know how. So I had to pretty much over the phone, I walked her through uh, to look underneath the toilet and turn the little knob to turn the water off on the toilet. And the house stopped flooding. It was a lot of water damage. It wasn't that much. It was a little bit of water damage, but I was able to send my repair guy in that house do the repairs. But do not assume that basic knowledge is existent in any tenant, as well as making sure you take care of a Section 8 tenant. But any tenant, do not assume as your landlord that they know what is going on and what they are doing. All right, let's get back to the slides. Blue collar workers tend to pay their rent on time also. Don't be so quick to disregard a person without a bachelor's degree. There are certain good blue collar jobs, garbage man, postman. These people tend to pay their rent on time as well too. Um, Again, even if they're blue collar, even if they have a bachelor's degree, even if they got a good job, always make sure you do that credit check and you do that criminal check, and that will show you what type of person this is and how they have they been living. And then again, the last tidbit of this. Maybe you looking at me, Freemason speaks. I don't want to do this. This is too hard. This is too much interaction with people. This is just too much for me to comprehend. But I still want a property. I still want to get that residual rent. Well, get a property management. There are plenty companies out here. I remember I had a talk with a woman one time that I work with professionally, and one of the reasons why I created these slides and created these talking points and created this presentation to give to you for free is because this woman, I was telling her at the time I was closing up and getting my fifth property up and running for rent. I got the fifth property up. I got the tenant in there, and I was so excited. I was so excited. I was telling everybody at work about my great accomplishment. And she walked up to me and said, "Oh my God, you got a tenant. What are you going to do when you get old?" Well, it don't seem like it's worth it because when She was under the impression that when you retired, that you gave all your property away. It was so ridiculous. She literally believed that when you get old, you give it away. I was like, no, honey, you don't give away your property. You keep your property through retirement. You may be retired physically, but you're not retired mentally. And these assets are the assets that you're going to pass down. And if I choose to not manage these assets moving forward, I can get a property management company. And you don't have to wait till you get old to get a property management company. If you buy the property today at 20, at 30, and you don't want to deal with managing, getting a tenant in there and dealing with them, if you pay a percentage to a property management company, they'll manage the property for you. Keep in mind, a property management company, on average across the United States, only charge 7 to 10% to manage a rental property. That is a drop in the bucket. If you got $1,000, 100 of that goes to the rental property. You may only be able to pocket $900 of that 1,000. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. So keep in mind, there's ways to make money moves. It's ways to move forward in life that's going to be beneficial to you guys, and how you build your wealth and how you maintain. You can have 100 properties and hire a property management company to manage those properties. And then on the bright side of that, all you got to do is be able to make it to your mailbox to get that check, make it to your pull up your phone to check that account balance as they transfer that money into your account. So that is the benefit, and that's the secret sauce of owning property. You can always move to a property management as long as you're willing to give up that 7 to 10%. Other mitigating risks for buying your first property. Mitigation is key. I am, in my private life, I am a risk manager. I specialize in risk management. That's my stick in the business world. I'm a risk manager. I evaluate all sorts of things, from investment products to strategies, on whether or not the risk is adequate enough. Should you take the risk? Is it worth it? And being a good risk management, you learn how to mitigate your risk. And these are key steps or key things I've learned throughout my career, and my property management and landlord journey, on how to manage risk. So let's get into this one. It says keep it in a savings account. So this is your deposit. Most people don't know you can ask, just like the regular landlords ask for first and last month's rent off of huge commercial properties. You as a landlord, with your one property, you can ask for that first to last month's rent. What is that first and last month's rent supposed to be for? That deposit. That deposit is supposed to be for whether or not they mess up your property. It could be first or last month's rent. It could be a deposit with first and last month's rent. That's the best one, if you ask me. Now, that deposit, you're not supposed to spend that deposit. Oh, no. Put that deposit in a savings account. Let's say you wanted $1,000 deposit. You take that $1,000, you put it in the savings account. You don't touch it. You leave it there. And at the end of your business with that tenant, by law, you are supposed to give that deposit back. That's if there is no damages to your property. If the rugs are clean and the paint is good and there are no repairs to be made, by law, you're supposed to give that money back with the interest that was gathered from that money. So it's average about 3%. So let's say $1,000, and then 3% of that for X amount of years would be what you return to your tenant. However, the reality of it is your tenant will cause damages no matter what. That carpet will get worn out, that paint will peel eventually, and repairs always will be needed. It's just the nature of the beast. But this is something that you can also ask for to mitigate your risks and costs when you are doing turnover of your property. Always set aside money for maintenance. I always suggest 5 to 7% of the rent. Always put that to the side for maintenance, just in case an appliance fails, just in case a water heater blows. There's always different things. Maybe a huge purchase. Maybe you're gonna need a new AC unit in there, and that might run you $7,000 to $10,000. You just want to make sure that you have a nest egg set aside, and this is created and set aside by rent. It's set aside by rent payments, and that is the beauty of this. This ain't coming out your check. This is coming out their check to you, and you put away 5 to 7% just in case. And then if something happens, you have the money. If nothing happens, you have the money. Hey, and if you're ready to, and when you sell it or you decide to do something else, you'll have the money. You'll have a self-generating and self-created nest egg or emergency fund that you can not only use for your house, but not only use for the investment property, but use for your house. You can use it for your house. There's lots of different ways you can leverage that, but that's one of the common ways. Um, don't worry, a house is just drywall and wood. When you look at a house, you might see something, but remember, a house ain't nothing but drywall and wood. That is it. That is what a house is. There is nothing that can be done to that house that cannot be fixed. Foundation can be fixed, concrete can be fixed, walls can be fixed, appliances can be replaced. There is nothing in a house that can't be rebuilt and replaced. So I want to make sure that you understand that and keep that key in the back of your mind that, hey, this house is nothing but drywall and wood. It's going to make this money until it can't make this money. And then that's why you have insurance. If there is a fire, if there is a freak accident, that you can get the money to repair it and then get back onto that business of making money. Don't worry about finding evictions or breaking early leases. Don't worry about all of that stuff. Don't worry. Don't worry. If a tenant breaks when it comes to evictions or finding a tenant or things of that nature, all of those things are able to be claimed on your taxes. If your house goes a year without being rented, you can claim that on your taxes. You can say, hey, IRS man, I've paid the mortgage out of pocket for X amount of months. I just can't find a tenant. You can claim that loss on your taxes for not having a tenant. If you have to evict the tenant, that process itself can be claimed on your taxes. If you make sure that you keep your receipts and keep what you paid out, you can claim that on your taxes. Another thing you can claim on your taxes is if your tenant breaks the lease. You can claim whether or not, if your tenant doesn't pay you the full rent in a timely manner, or their short rent, you can claim that on your taxes. These are things that you can write off, the benefits of owning a property. So don't be afraid. There's 1,001 ways that you can benefit tax-wise off of owning an investment property. Always make sure you include clauses in your leases to prevent tenants from subletting your property, or subleasing or subletting your property. What does that mean? A lot of tenants will rent from you. Let's say you have a 4-bedroom house and your tenant rents from you 4 bedrooms. that tenant could turn around and then rent out rooms of the house that you just rented them and make money off of subletting. However, if anything happens or that tenant sublets to a bad tenant and they don't do their research and it turns out to be one of those crazy people or crazy things that might happen, then it falls to you as the owner of the property to get that person up out of there. And that, my friend, can be a nightmare. So the best way to do it is to put clauses in your lease that prevent your tenant from subletting. So that's another thing that you want to look out for. And later on in the next slides, we'll later on in the series, we're going to talk about subletting as a strategy. So, it's not it's bad for you as the landlord, but it could lead to ownership in different ways, and we'll talk about that later on in the series. Next slide. All right, guys, we're at the end of the slide. So let me go. I'm going to show you a quick analysis of how you can use something like a Zillow to do a property search and what you need to look for off that Zillow account to see what is going on in the market and how to make an evaluation, a simple evaluation. I'm going to show you how to judge a property for a good rental property for you to have. And this is basic. You can really get down into the weeds with this, but I'm going to show you some real basic stuff. So let me go ahead. I'm going to bring this screen up, and we're going to walk through it. We're going to walk through this. This, my friends, is Baltimore City. We're on Zillow right now. We're on Zillow, and we're looking at a house. Remember some of the tips I told you. We said we want to make sure that house is a 3-bedroom and let's say 1 bath. We want to make sure that's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Remember, when you're doing your searches for investment properties, make sure that it's a 3-bedroom. 3 bedrooms move fast. Risk management. Remember risk management. Hey, if I get caught in any way, I want to make sure that I can move this property. 3 bedrooms sell faster on the average nationwide than a 2-bedroom. Just remember that. That one fact could save you a lot of headaches. Price range. You can go lower, you go higher. We set the price range on this search for 150 to 250. So let's go into it. Take this house right here in Baltimore City. This is one of those houses that's been completely renovated. It's completely renovated. It's a great looking house. Good craftsmanship from what you can see through the pictures. Somebody did the damn thing here. Somebody went in, gutted it, rehabbed it. Check this little baby out in the back. I love this when it comes to Baltimore properties. See, the cage is so crackheads can't run off with the copper and run off with the unit. I like it. It shows that they really wanted to protect the investment. So let's look at it. 150, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. That's a plus. The street, the Zillow value is 146. That might be a little bit questionable. But again, when you go through the buying process, there's going to be an assessment of the property value, especially if you're going through a bank. If you're going through the bank, you're going to get an appraisal on this house. And that appraisal will tell you whether or not the house is worth 150. If the house is not worth 150, depending on the market, you're going to have the negotiation power of being able to tell that seller, hey, you need to lower that price. This house isn't worth that 150. It's actually worth 130. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at that mortgage. Zillow is a great tool to do some good analysis work on these houses. As you can see, it says the property has fluctuated up. At one point in time, the property was a little bit higher than 150 at one point in time. Now it's set at 150. So the range of houses in that area is between 139 to 155. So that's a good range. So the so is the house worth 150? There's a 90% guarantee or a 99 probability using just the Zillow app that when you go through that appraisal process, you're going to get to that 150, that you're going to get that 150 out of this property. Let me go here. Let's do some more analysis work here. All right, Zillow. I love Zillow in the sense that they tell you what your mortgage is going to be. So this mortgage is 900, and when everything's said and done, now take this out. Now this is something that most people don't know about these mortgage calculators. These mortgage calculators automatically are set for 20% down. They're not set for 5%. They're set for 20%. So let's say you was going to buy this house as a primary home. Let's say they let you drop 3% on this house, which changes the numbers. With that 3%, if this was a residential home, you were buying your first home, you would only need 40, you only need closing costs as well as 4,500 down. See, people don't understand that home ownership is right around the corner. Home ownership isn't far away. Home ownership isn't. Most people are under the understanding that their fathers and mothers went through when they had to put 20% down. That's just not the case in the United States. Even now with the economy bad, average for residential properties, the average money down for a residential property is still around 5 to 6%. So let's look at that. The 5, 6, $10,000, 10,000, you're $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 away from owning your own property. So keep that in mind. But if you're going to go hardcore and this is solely investment, you're going to have to come to the table with a whopping $30,000 for a $150,000 house. Now, keep in mind, this is the down payment. When you buy this house, this down payment, you don't lose this money. This money now becomes equity in your investment property. This becomes equity in that rental property. So you're not losing it. You're just taking your money and you're transforming it. I call it transforming it into something else. You're taking your cash, transforming it into and putting it into an asset. And with that, that mortgage is now $959. Remember, I was telling you, keep that mortgage payment. If you're going to go on this landlord journey, make sure if you're going to use a bank, keep that mortgage within the amount that you would pay for a car. That's about the size of a small SUV right there, $959. For most people, for some people, I know it's kind of out of range, but for some people, hey, that's the size of the SUV. Oh, and it doesn't stop. You can play with the numbers. Let's say you was hardcore. Say you saved up 45,000 and you put that away. Hey, you lower that payment down $860. Equivalent to a car payment, easy to manage, easy to maintain. That's where you want to be at. Now let's keep going with Zillow. Zillow also calculates the average rental property for that area. So remember the equation that I gave you before. This is perfect for that equation. So you have your rent, take away your mortgage payment equals your capital gains. And if that's over 15% of what that payment is, then you're winning in the game. You're winning on that mortgage. And I love it. I love Zillow. Zillow allows you. I suggest you go on here and play with the numbers and see what you can find, see what you can play with. It's so much data, so much information that is given to you through just Zillow itself. Here's another property, well put together, well maintained. Somebody probably has rehabbed this house, rebuilt this house. Look, you know it's a rehab because you can see that stove. That stove is white. Uh, when I see that white stove, I already know it used to be a rehab. It's just some things you just know off the bat. So the owner, he rehabbed this, he skipped out on money for the brand new stove, but he was able to conduct a successful rehab. Let's see what the pricing is for this. Hey, it's 150. Let's see what Zillow says the value of this house is on Zillow. Let's see if Zillow gives us a estimate on the value. It looks like Zillow isn't giving us an estimate. Hey, sometimes it hits hard, or sometimes it doesn't. But it's 150. We always know in the back of our mind that there's going to be appraisal done if we're going to be using the bank. If we're going to be using hard cash or fast money, we don't need to do that. But you always want to have an appraisal done of the property to make sure that you're getting the bang for your buck. And the appraisal only going to cost you $300 to $400. I always recommend you get one, no matter what the property is. A property like this, if you did have all cash, I would always advise you to get an appraisal done to make sure before you spend that cash that you're spending it on a property that's worth what you're spending it on. $400, guaranteed risk management. Again, risk management. Um, Property again, if you put that 20% down, remember all these sites are set up. The minute you go on these sites, they're automatically going to put you at 20% down. And with that 20% down, $30,000 for this type of property. At 150, 30% down. So you want to make sure if you're going to do residential, if you're going to buy this house for yourself and maybe rent it out a year later, that's a strategy. You might be looking at, hey, 3% down. You might be in the game. Obviously, that's $1,200 a month. In some cases, that's more. That's the same as the rent you're paying now, depending on where you're at. That is the same as the rent you're paying now. The only difference is that you own the residency. You own the building. Now let's jack that back up to investors rate 20%. Bam, $959. Let's go to let's see if they have the data for what the rent is for that area. The data is not there. Like I said, Zillow hits and miss. However, you can look around the area and see what other houses are going for. And this is all your analysis work. So what I just chose was a like house in the area. And Zillow's kind of weird like that because you can see at the top a like house in the area. The average cost of the area is 150 on this house. Didn't show us on the last house, but on this house is the average estimate, or the average price for the house is 150 in that area. The average rent for that area is $1,599. So if you did put 2% down or 3%, your mortgage would have came out to $1,200. You would make a profit off this house of $300, a little bit over $300. In some cases, that's a win. That's over. That could be. Is that over your 15%? Let me do the math. Let me do some math real quick. Let me do some math and see if that's over your 15% calculation. Let me see. Let me drag this count. Let me drag that little thing over here and let's run this math. So let's start with that. 1599. So let's start there. Let's go back to the house we previously looked at. And again, this is how you do analysis work. This is the essence of analysis, looking at the market, figuring out what you need to do to make things work. So, okay, you got your 15. All right, let's go down. Let's look at what that mortgage was. What that mortgage be? You put that 20% down. We already know that the average rent rate is 1,590. Let's see what it is. Okay, we got the rent. We take that away from the 959, $640. That's $640 in rent. Let's see if it's worth it. Let's see if it's worth it. Let's take the 999 and let's times that by 15%. $259 is what 15% profit is. Out of that, you're making well over 15% profit. You're at $640 for this profit. This is a good rental property. That 600, you might ask you, hey, he's like, hey, that 600 and some dollars is equivalent to a car payment. That's a good bill payment. I could use 600. I don't know about you, but me personally, I know what to do with 600 and some dollars a month. That's good money. That's good money. That's a good rental. You're not going to get uber rich overnight. Real estate game, there's certain aspects of the real estate game where you flip and you make money, and we're going to cover that later on into the series about flipping and doing other things. But the rental game is a little bit different. You stack as you acquire rentals, you stack your money. So let me bring up that calculator again, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me show you a little bit about what I am talking about when it comes to rental properties and what I mean by stacking your money. Say, let me clear that completely out. So that's $640. That's 640. If you get 2 rental properties, 2 times 2, that's 1,200. That's good money. That's good money. Let's say you get 5 of those rental properties. You get 5 rental properties times 5 at that rate alone. That's $3,200 and some dollars. That's $3,200 a month in your pocket as a landlord. That's the money you get to keep. Let's say you go big dog. You get equivalent for 10 properties with at that 15% gains and higher. You get 10 properties times the 640. Let's do that. That's $6,000. That's $6,400 a month in cash flow that you are getting, that you're putting in your pocket. What can't you do with $6,000 in your pocket? And that's off 10 properties. So as you grow, as you get more, as you acquire more, as you get more into possessing and owning more properties, and I'm going to show you more tricks of the trade as we go, you're going to build your wealth. This is wealth. This is what wealth really looks like. This is what they ain't telling you. This is what wealth looks like. Wealth is $6,400 that don't require you to put in labor. Yes, there will be maintenance. Yes, there will be stuff you need to do. However, think of it this way. If I had 10 properties, I own 10 stoves. I own 10 refrigerators. I own 10 washers and dryers. I own 10 of everything. I got 10 lots of land. I have 10 of these. 10. These are things that you now own. You own this stuff. This is generational wealth. When you pass on, you're not just passing on property to your kid. You're passing on everything that's involved with that property, and you're passing on the worth, the investment, the time. You're passing on the stuff that's in and that's involved with those properties. You own 10 AC units. Now you might think those are 10 AC units that you're liable for, or you can think of it in the sense that I own 10 AC units. Everything can be leveraged. Everything can be leveraged. Everything can be negotiated. Just always keep that in mind on your on this real estate journey of yours. All right, guys. Well, I just want to say thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. I just want to say um, there's 5 more episodes. Please tune in. Please look me up, and then we'll talk some more real estate. All right, guys. You have a good night, a good weekend, and also God bless you. Yeah, God bless you. See you next time. Goodbye.